The chair of the inquiry into the Southport attack says that it could and should have been prevented.
And we're about to discover exactly how Axel Rudakubana could have been prevented from butchering 3 little girls in a dance studio in July 2024. We're uncovering all of Britain's most dangerous terrorists held behind bars, and we're starting at Southport in summer 2024. He hated white people, had parents who were scared of him, tried to behead one of his 3 victims, and even now, in prison, continues to be violent and remorseless. But what were the missed opportunities to stop triple murderer Axel Rudakubana, who I'm mainly going to be calling Axel, who was 17 when, in July 2024, he committed his evil acts, becoming what he's become?
It should be remembered that for over 2 years before the attack on the 29th of July, AR had only ever left home by himself when he was intending to kill or seriously harm others.
Coming from a small village in Lancashire called Banks, at first Axel was a well-liked pupil at school whose talent for acting got him the lead role in a Children in Need trailer where he portrayed Doctor Who. However, at the age of 13, Axel changed. Having been happy at school before then, he was now being systematically bullied for reasons of racial hate. In October 2019, when he was, as I say, 13, he called Childline and told them that he had started carrying a knife to school for protection and that he was seriously thinking about killing. When the school discovered what Axel had told Childline, they kicked him out. In December of the same year, he returned to the school unannounced, armed with a hockey stick, and proceeded to attack a student who used to bully him, breaking his arm. Hidden in the backpack that he was wearing, meanwhile, was a kitchen knife, evidencing the boy's growing fixation on violence. In any event, teachers thankfully managed to overpower the boy and then call the police. The boy was arrested and later charged with assault, ABH, actual bodily harm, and possession of an offensive weapon. This incident was Axel's first formal encounter with the criminal justice system. He was referred to Prevent, the UK's anti-extremism programme, after authorities noted concerning behaviours from the boy, including an apparent fascination with mass shootings. And yet, despite these warning signs, Prevent officials determined that Axel didn't exhibit any clear signs of radicalisation or ideological motivation. Instead, they viewed his actions as the result of personal struggles, not extremist beliefs. Axel was placed under a youth justice referral order, a programme designed to rehabilitate young offenders. He completed the order in 2021, but hadn't changed. In April 2021, at his new school, when a teacher both noticed and reported that Axel had been researching the 2019 London Bridge terror attack during a lesson, officials again said that there was no concrete evidence that the youth was being radicalised in any way. In November 2021, police were called to Axel's home after the boy, who by this point was 15, kicked his father and damaged his car because he was angry with him. The matter ended with Axel getting another vulnerable child referral, and it shows us, I'd say, that the youth's parents were weak.
To use the words of his own father, AR had turned into a monster.
4 months later, March 2022 then, Axel went missing from home. He was found soon after on a bus whose driver called the police when Axel refused to pay his fare. When officers arrived, Axel calmly announced that he was carrying a knife. The police confiscated the weapon before returning the boy to his parents, and that was the end of that. In January 2022, Axel purchased castor beans. He bought them online. Castor beans contain ricin, one of the most lethal biological toxins known to man, which, with the pestle and mortar that the boy also bought, can be converted into a weapon of mass destruction. Police also found, when, the day after the youth committed his murderous atrocities in Southport, when they raided the youth's home, a terror training manual from an Islamic terror group, along with numerous images of genocide and mass violence. A week before perpetrating his Southport attack, Axel armed himself with a large kitchen knife and booked a taxi to his old school. In the nick of time, though, his father stopped him going. I think it's safe to assume that Axel was going there to, how should I put it, stab people up and kill them if he could.
I have no doubt that if appropriate procedures had been in place, and if sensible steps had been taken by the agencies and AR's parents, this dreadful event would not have happened.
We've got no information to suggest there's anything other than this person involved. He's in custody. There's a knife up there. He's been disarmed.
Any more kids in there?
Instead of being calm and still as he is now, moments before now, 17-year-old Axel Rudakubana was behaving very differently.
Take his arm over there, mate. Yeah.
The brazen and unprovoked knife attack that he's just carried out in a dance club in Southport, northwest England, having left 10 people, including 8 little girls, badly injured, while 3 little girls have lost their lives. The perpetrator didn't pay the taxi that he took on the morning of the 29th of July 2024 from his home to the dance club, having armed himself before leaving home with a kitchen knife. When he invaded the dance studio where a Taylor Swift themed activity was taking place, the little girls were sitting at tables making friendship bracelets. The perpetrator immediately started stabbing people and tried to behead 7-year-old Elsie Stankham. Alongside Elsie, Alice Aguiar, age 9, and BB King, age 6, ended up murdered. The perpetrator inflicted serious injuries on 8 other girls as well as on 2 adults, and for legal reasons only the injuries suffered by the 2 adults were allowed to be presented to us in videos of the sentencing hearing. Even then, I can only find you about half the clip relating to the injuries suffered by an adult organiser called Leanne Lucas, who was in charge of all of the girls.
She tried to save as many children as she could. Leaning over them, Rudakubana attacked her also. She did all she could before escaping, but suffered 5 stab wounds to her head, neck, back, shoulder blade and arm. She required a blood transfusion. She also suffered fractures to a spinal vertebrae, a rib, a shoulder blade, and all caused by severe force. And Jonathan Hayes was an adult working in a different part of the upstairs to the building. After he heard the disturbance, he went out to see what had happened and was attacked with a knife. Rudakubana stabbed him in the leg, causing a deep wound as he tried to kill him. He was only saved when another witness appeared.
As for the injuries inflicted on the 8 other girls that Rudakubana attacked, who all, as I say, thankfully survived, Child 1, or C1, was aged 7. She almost managed to escape, but Rudakubana was seen to pull her back into the building and attack her. He stabbed her 32 times, including 23 to her back and arms, causing her life-threatening injuries. Fortunately, she survived, having collapsed outside. And frankly, that basically tells you the sorts of things that the perpetrator did to the other 7 girls as well. We'll move on. Once the perpetrator was in police custody, the police having arrived only minutes after the youth's deadly rampage began, he declared repeatedly that he was glad that the children were dead. Axel Rudakubana's savage attack on the dance club triggered 4 days of rioting across the UK, and people were jailed for Facebook posts and tweets that allegedly broke the laws relating to free speech. After changing his plea to his charges of murder and attempted murder from not guilty to guilty on the first day of his trial, the 20th of January 2025, in his sentencing hearing that came 3 days later, the perpetrator no less behaved with childishness and contempt for his victims. Due to constantly shouting out and claiming to be sick, to be exact, he was removed from the dock several times until the judge, Mr. Justice Goose from Liverpool Crown Court, deemed it necessary for him to be kicked out of the courtroom for good.
During this sentence hearing, Axel Rudakubana was determined to disrupt the proceedings so that he would not have to face the victims of his crimes and justice. I was required to have him removed from court, not because that is what he wanted, but he was preventing the hearing from being held in the normal way. The Accordingly, I pass sentence in his voluntary absence, whilst his counsel, both leading and junior, and solicitor are present in court.
In reference to the sentence that Mr Justice Goose subsequently imposed on the perpetrator, the judge made no bones about either his desire to lock the youth up forever or his belief that being locked up forever, even though that isn't the sentence imposed, is exactly what lies in store for the murderer.
He's a UK citizen, now aged 18, but was still 17 when he committed these offences. He was only 9 days short of his 18th birthday, which has a particular significance. Had he been 18, I make it clear that I would have been compelled to impose on him life imprisonment without a minimum term, otherwise known as a whole life term, meaning that he would never be released. However, the law does not permit such a sentence for those offenders who are under 18 when they offend. The minimum term I will fix will be a very substantial one, and the very least he will be detained, which will mean that he will serve almost the whole of his life in custody. I consider at this time that it is likely he will never be released, and that he will be in custody for all his life. I'm now going to sentence Axel Rudakubana, having explained my reasons. On counts 1 to 3 murder, I sentence him to custody for life with a minimum term which he must serve in custody of 52 years, less the time he's served already. He's been in custody for 175 days on remand, which will be credited. Therefore, the minimum term is 51 years and 190 days.
On the 8th of May 2025 at HMP Belmarsh, his home, the perpetrator threw boiling water over a prison guard. The killer hasn't changed, and it's looking at this point like his 52-year minimum term will turn into a whole life order, and hey, I don't think there'll be many people who'll be mourning that. Our next antagonist wreaked even more evil than the Southport psycho, the man having all of 22 murders to his name. First though, if I've got you hooked on the video so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready, and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. On the 22nd of May 2017, at the Manchester Arena where Ariana Grande was given a concert, 22 people lost their lives when a bomb was detonated. This was the single deadliest act of terrorism and the first suicide bombing in the UK since the 7th of July 2005 London bombings. And it was an act settled on by 22-year-old Salman Abedi for revenging his fellow Muslims on the United States-led intervention in the Syrian civil war. Salman's kid brother, Hashem Abedi, aged 20, helped Salman both plan and prepare the atrocity, which, as their sister later revealed, was also to get his own back on a Manchester gang who, in 2016, ran over and then stabbed to death a boy by the name of Abdul Wahab Hafida, who was a friend of both brothers. After the Manchester Arena attack, police discovered that the two brothers had participated in the Libyan civil war and had met with members of Al-Qaeda. Salman's thorough research and preparation for his deadly attack included a trip to Libya, his country of origin, a few days before the attack, where it's believed that the man trained in bomb making. Salman had gone there with his brother Hashem, and Hashem remained there when Salman returned to the UK to fulfil his terror plot. On returning on the 18th of May 2017 to the UK, in furtherance of that terror plot, Salman made as many as 3 reconnaissance visits to Manchester Arena. At 8:30 p.m. on the 22nd of May 2017, Salman was in the Should Hill interchange at the Manchester Arena with a bag carrying the IED, improvised explosive device, that he had built. Moments later, the man went over to the city room. At 12 minutes past 10, a member of the public stopped Salman and asked what he had in his bag, fearful as he was that Salman was carrying a bomb. When Salman didn't answer him, he reported Salman to the police at the venue and was told that they were already aware of Salman. 19 minutes later, however, at 10:31 p.m, when the concert finished and people started leaving, from the city room, Salman detonated his IED. As well as the 22 people that the man killed, 239 others were left injured. Salman's kid brother Hashim was picked up by Libyan security forces on the 23rd of May, the very day after the bombing. After being extradited to the UK and then charged with murder, attempted murder and conspiracy to cause an explosion, in March 2020 the man was found guilty of 22 counts of murder. The terrorist, having helped his brother, who was dead as you might have imagined because it was a suicide bomb, both sourced the materials used in the IED and then built the thing. Having been too young for a whole life order, life without parole, in August 2020, Hashim got the longest sentence ever imposed by a British court, 55 years. That sentence, though, has since changed. What many of us may not have known when we heard of the attack from the 12th of April 2025 on 3 prison guards at HMP Franklin, County Durham, by terrorist mass murderer Hashem Abedi was that, where assaulting prison staff is concerned, that wasn't the 28-year-old's first rodeo, so to speak. For reasons that as yet remain unclear, on the said date, Abedi threw boiling hot cooking oil on 3 prison guards, one of which being a woman, before stabbing the 3 officers with a makeshift knife. While the woman guard was discharged from hospital later that day, the other 2 guards were kept in for treatment of the serious burn and stab wounds that they had sustained. Meanwhile, back in May 2020, alongside fellow convicted terrorists Ahmed Hassan and Mohammed Saeed, the killer stormed the office of HMP Belmarsh prison guard Paul Edwards, aged 57, and whacked him with an office chair. After the man fell to the floor, the 3 attackers viciously kicked and punched him again and again. As well as suffering lacerations to his scalp, Mr. Edwards was left with a bruised back and rib cage, along with lasting damage to his hearing. As to why Abedi and his 2 accomplices did what they did to Mr. Edwards, it transpired that, sometime before their attack on the guard, Abedi and Hassan had been moved from the prison's standard privileges regime to a basic one, clearly inferior standard, because they had changed their appearance without permission, shaving their heads having been how. As a result of this, the 2 forfeited their access to televisions and game consoles and had their exercise sessions shortened, these restrictions being, naturally, what a prisoner gets in a basic regime. As you've probably already guessed, Mr. Edwards was the officer who downgraded the 2 men's regime. As a result of Abedi's attack on the prison guard Mr. Edwards, he was moved to HMP Franklin. However, 4 days after his subsequent attack on prison guards at HMP Franklin, the man was moved back to HMP Belmarsh, since that was the only prison in the country with a highly controlled suite cell, that's S-U-I-T-E, available. A suite cell is a standalone self-contained unit which is monitored by a minimum of 5 people plus a dog at any one time. There are only 4 such cells across England and Wales. Belmarsh, meanwhile, is considered the most high-security prison in the UK. Hashim's trial for his attack on staff at HMP Franklin was, at the time of this recording, set for January 2027. For his attack on a prison officer at HMP Belmarsh in 2020, meanwhile, he got 3 years and 10 months to run consecutively to his 55-year term. With the life sentence that I personally expect him to get for his Franklin attack, the man will most certainly, or most probably anyway, be locked up for the rest of his life. Hacking a soldier to bits on the street in broad daylight in front of multiple passers-by. Together with his accomplice, that's what our next antagonist did. On the afternoon of the 22nd of May 2013, a British Army soldier, drummer Lee Rigby of the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers, was attacked and killed by Michael Adebolajo and Michael Adebolajo near the Royal Artillery Barracks in Woolwich, south-east London. Both men were Muslim converts, and their murder of Lee Rigby was an act of protest against the atrocities, as they saw them, being committed by the British Army against citizens of Muslim countries. 29-year-old Adebolajo was found guilty of Mr. Rigby's murder on the 19th of December 2013, and so was Adebolajo. Adebolajo, however, held a greater share of liability for the murder of father of one Mr. Rigby, such as is reflected in his sentence compared to that of Adebolajo, the sentence details coming soon. The youngest of Adebolajo's 6 children, a little girl, was but 4 days old when, alongside an accomplice, Her father went and ran over an innocent man who happened to be in the army before hacking him to death with knives and with a cleaver. In response to the arrival, around 5 minutes later, of armed police officers, the two murderous maniacs, who were armed with a gun as well as with the said bladed articles, charged at the police. As a result of the gunfire that they each suffered from the police, the two killers were hospitalised, Adebolajo having had one of his thumbs shot off. In contrast, and thankfully, no police officers were harmed. The calm and coherent way in which Adebolajo explained during his first court appearance his motives for his horrific act, revenge for the killing of Muslims overseas by British soldiers, as I mentioned earlier, offered a stark contrast to the notably stilted but no less bravado-laden speaking that he did in his police interview.
We decided to wait in the vicinity of the barracks that is in Woolwich. By the qadr of Allah, by Allah's decree, whilst waiting to find a soldier, because between us we decided that the soldier is the most fair target, because he joins the army with kind of an understanding that your life is at risk when you join the army, you know. So we sat in wait, and it just so happened that he was the soldier that was spotted first.
On the 26th of February 2014, at the Old Bailey, Adebolajo got life with a minimum of 45 years, while Adebolajo got his whole life order. In a rather shocking piece of news, 4 years later, Adebolajo expressed regret for doing what he did to Lee Rigby. He said his justification for his act, coming as it did from the Quran, was a misinterpretation of the Quran and that he'd been brainwashed. Lee Rigby's mother, though, whose name is Lynn Rigby, rejected his apology and said that she'd never forgive him. Shooting and stabbing an MP to death on the street in broad daylight because she didn't share his hatred. Don't miss the story of horror of Thomas Mair. On the 16th of June 2016, during the Brexit referendum, Jo Cox, Labour MP for Batley and Spen, was shot and stabbed multiple times in Birstall, West Yorkshire, by 53-year-old Thomas Mair. Mair was anti-immigration, anti-EU and anti-absolutely everything that wasn't both white and British. And while he shot and stabbed his victim, he called out, "This is for Britain, keep Britain independent, Britain first." His act of murder came from his thoroughly researched assassination plan, which included his act of acquiring the firearm that he used, where he got it from being a mystery even today. While Mair, an unemployed gardener from Scotland, was deemed sane at the moment of his act of murder against Jo Cox, who left behind a husband and 2 small children, he had a history of mental health problems. As a matter of fact, the evening before his act of murder, the man visited a treatment centre in Birstall seeking help for depression. He was told to return for an appointment the next day. Mair believed that individuals of liberal and left-wing political viewpoints, along with the mainstream media, were the cause of the world's problems. The Guardian newspaper suggested, for its part, that the man targeted Jo Cox, a passionate defender of the EU and of immigration, because he saw her as one of the collaborators and a traitor to white people. In Mair's home, police found Nazi regalia, far-right publications and information on the construction of bombs. Mair had an association with a multitude of far-right groups, both from the UK and from the USA, had attended far-right gatherings and wanted to see apartheid reintroduced to South Africa. On the 18th of June 2016, when he was asked to confirm his name in Westminster Magistrates Court, the man said, "My name is Death to Traitors, Freedom for Britain." His lawyer said there was no indication of how he would plead. The man was remanded in custody and the magistrate suggested that he should be seen by a psychiatrist. And then, at a bail hearing on the 20th of June, the judge remanded Mair in custody until the point when a hearing could be held under terrorism-related protocols. At the next hearing, which came on the 23rd of June, the judge said that the case would be handled as part of the terrorism case management list, on which cases related to terrorism, as defined by the Terrorism Act 2000, are always placed. At a September 2016 hearing, Mair's lawyers said that they weren't going to advance a diminished responsibility argument. And then at another hearing the following month, Mair, who appeared by video link, refused to enter a plea, so because of that, the judge entered not guilty pleas on the man's behalf. Mair's trial began at the Old Bailey on the 14th of November 2016. The man made no attempt to defend himself and was duly found guilty of all the charges against him. In sentencing the man on the 23rd of November 2016, the judge said that he had no doubt that the defendant murdered Jo Cox to advance political, racial and ideological causes of violent white supremacism and exclusive nationalism that's most associated with Nazism and its modern forms. In the eyes of the law, this made the man's act of murder exceptionally serious, for which reason the judge sentenced the man to a whole life order, meaning that he will never be released. One of Mair's convictions was for GBH. When Mair started shooting and stabbing Jo Cox, 77-year-old Bernard Carter Kenny rushed to her rescue, but was then himself stabbed by the perpetrator, hence the perpetrator's charge and conviction of GBH. Mr. Carter Kenny thankfully made a full recovery and was awarded the George Cross for bravery. While he sadly died the following year, it had nothing to do with the attack that he suffered from the perpetrator. After emulating Thomas Mair with his own act of murder against an MP, Ali Harbi Ali gently asked the police to put his glasses back on his face.
Get it down!
This is the moment in October 2021 when police arrested a young man in a church down in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, South East England, for the murder of a prominent local resident.
Allowing you to go in and see the David Amess.
Mate, we've got to stick our instructions as well at the same time. We've got a taser unit 1 minute away, so we're going to go in and take a taser.
Stand at the door. He's not right there. You can't go and stand at the door.
Can you show us, mate? Stay back there. Here, you're on the left.
You can go and stand at this door. Yeah, go on. You can see what's names. You stand at the side. Yeah?
Mate, drop the knife.
Drop the knife down! Mate, drop that knife! Drop that knife! Drop the knife down! Mate, drop the knife! You can drop it! Mate, listen to me. Drop the knife. Mate, no, it's mate, drop the knife! Drop the knife! Mate, you can drop the Listen to me. Look, it's only going to go one way. Just drop that knife. Please drop that knife for me. Just drop the knife.
We'll talk about it.
You don't want to do this. Okay?
Mate, just drop the knife.
You can do this.
Mate, taser.
Get that, mate. Yeah, come on. On the floor now. On the floor. Get it down. We got it.
Right, search him.
Right, mate, at the moment you're under arrest for murder, alright? If you'd like to say anything, they may arm your defence. If you do not mention when mentioned something which you later on in court, anything you do say may be given as evidence. Do you understand me?
This now has stabbed. What's the man's name?
David Amess.
David Amess.
A-M-E-S-S.
Yeah. Equals to be deceased.
Domestic or hate related in any
Terror.
way? Pardon?
Terror. I'd say hate, yeah.
On what basis? Racial, religious?
Religious.
We have been informed that you made a significant comment following your arrest, where you have made the comment, it was terrorist. Is that correct?
I think I said, what's it called? The nature of the crime I said is terror. I think that's what I said.
Okay.
In the room where, with the lady, when I first came in.
Okay.
To her, yeah.
So, the nature of the crime was terror. Okay. Mr. Ali, is this a terrorist attack?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I killed an MP, and I've done it. Yeah.
Okay. Have you planned, or were you planning any other terrorist attacks?
No, nothing like that, no.
Okay.
Ali Harbi Ali is an Islamic terrorist. In October 2021, he murdered Conservative MP Sir David Amess. He stabbed him more than 20 times while attending a constituency surgery. Ali pleaded not guilty to murder, but then didn't dispute much of the evidence against him in court. He had also plotted to murder other MPs, all in revenge against those, including Amess, who had voted for airstrikes against Syria. He got his whole life order in 2022. Khairi Saadallah killed 3 innocent men, complete strangers, in a park in Reading in June 2020 in the name of God, apparently. A Libyan refugee who came to the UK in 2012, 25-year-old Khairi Saadallah had mental health issues, couldn't stay out of prison, admired Islamic terrorists and, on the 20th of June 2020, stabbed to death 3 total strangers in a park in Reading, Berkshire. Why? Because he wanted to please God, Allah to be exact. Even though Saadallah was from a wealthy family back in Libya, a member of his family reports that the man sought to escape the violence that ravaged his home country, the killer having developed PTSD as a result of their civil war. Between 2015 and 2019, over here in the UK, Saadallah gained 6 convictions relating to as many as 15 crimes, 8 of which having been violent crimes. Sending this refugee back to his home country on account of his criminality, however, would have been a breach of his human rights. A cannabis addict who was radicalised in prison and who was briefly on the radar of MI5, the man had regular visits from a mental health professional. In fact, a day or 2 before he murdered 3 people who were wholly innocent, he spoke to the police about his ongoing therapy sessions, the police having been asked to look into the man's behaviour by none other than the man's brother.
You're feeling a bit down, feeling a bit unwell?
When?
I don't know.
Wait,
No?
Yesterday, yeah.
You were feeling down yesterday. You were supposed to see the crisis team.
I spoke to them, yeah.
You spoke to them. What did you say?
I spoke to them. They say that they're going to bring me back.
They're going to bring you back?
Yeah.
In court, the prosecution described Saadallah's murder of James Furlong, 36, David Wales, 49, and Joe Ritchie Bennett, 39, the 3 men being friends and having all lost their lives in less than a minute at the hands of Saadallah, as, quote, highly effective executions, unquote. They added that as a committed jihadist who, as he killed his 3 victims, was heard to clamour in Arabic, God is great and God accept my jihad. The perpetrator planned the attack with determination and precision, intending to kill as many people as possible. In October 2021, Saadallah was denied permission to appeal his whole life order, which, following his guilty pleas from November 2020, he picked up in his sentencing hearing of January 2021. The story of David Copeland, the London nail bomber, is full of horror and full of stomach-churning twists. The twists to the story of David Copeland will leave you flabbergasted. Over 3 successive weekends between the 17th and the 30th of April 1999, homemade nail bombs were detonated in Brixton, South London, Brick Lane, East London, and at the Admiral Duncan pub in Soho in the West End of London. Each bomb contained up to 1,500 nails in duffel bags that were left on the pavement. The bombs claimed 3 lives, injured 140 others, including a baby who got a nail lodged in his or her head. The London nail bomber was David Copeland. The bomb that he detonated at the Admiral Duncan pub killed 27-year-old Andrea Dykes and 2 of her very best friends, Nick Moore, aged 31, and John Light, aged 32. The bomb also seriously injured her husband, Julian. This was a group of 4 friends from Essex who had met up in the pub to celebrate Andrea's pregnancy. She was 4 months pregnant with her first child, and John Light was meant to be the baby's godfather. Police came for Copeland the very night of the bombing at the Admiral Duncan pub. He was at an address in Cove in Hampshire where he rented a room. When police entered the room, they saw Nazi flags hanging on the walls, and furthermore, the second they came in, Copeland said to them, "Yeah, they were all down to me, I did them on my own." Understand, lovely viewer, that Brixton is a black area, Brick Lane is a Bangladeshi area, and the Admiral Duncan pub is a gay pub. As regards the man's attack on the Admiral Duncan pub, he said that he targeted the place because it was full of men hugging each other. As regards his attacks on Brixton and Brick Lane respectively, he said that when he got to those places he could see some white people there, but that he didn't care about killing them along with the non-whites because it was their fault for being in the wrong place. Born in 1976 in Hounslow, West London, to working-class parents, Copeland was, at one point, a member of an anti-immigration political party that grew quite a strong gathering in the 90s. The perpetrator left the party some years in, however, because of their refusal to engage with paramilitary violence. He then went and joined a much smaller and more underground racist party who were all for violence. They put him in charge of Hampshire and told him to go out and start killing exactly as he wanted to do. Copeland's mental state was assessed at Broadmoor Hospital, a secure psychiatric unit, and the man was diagnosed with schizophrenia plus a personality disorder. This could potentially have stopped the man getting a murder conviction and led to a hospital order, for instance, instead of life imprisonment, which is what you always get for murder. In June 2000, however, Copeland was convicted of 3 counts of murder and of planting bombs, his schizophrenia diagnosis having failed to get the man out of his murder charges. On the point of the man's mental state, while his parents aren't psychologists, they said when they spoke about what their son had done, that they didn't think he was mentally ill at all. His father said rather his son was just a very weak-willed and weak-minded person. He was, as such, very easy to indoctrinate with poisonous views. Anyway, for his offences, Copeland got 6 life sentences with a minimum term of 50 years. He was 24 when he was sentenced. I don't understand why he didn't get a whole life prison sentence. In June 2014, the man attacked a fellow inmate at HMP Belmarsh with a shiv, which is an improvised weapon which is made from razor blades attached to a toothbrush handle. He got 3 years for that additional offence, but will only ever have to do 18 months. Now, today, if you come across Copeland in HMP Frankland and call him David, he might not answer you. David Copeland has converted to Islam. The Bangladeshi community of Brick Lane in East London is a Muslim community, and now the man is one of them. He belongs to a community that some years before he tried to exterminate. He likes being called Saddam in tribute to someone that he admires, Saddam Hussein. And that isn't where our Islamic plot twists end. I've mentioned that after Copeland left that anti-immigration political party, he went and joined a smaller racist and fascist movement. That was led by a man by the name of David Mayat. He was racist, fascist, ethno-nationalist, and so of course today he's known as Abdul Aziz ibn Mayat because he too has become a Muslim. Whether or not the man is actually a true Muslim, and we can ask the same question of Copeland, is another matter, because what I'm reading in front of me describes the man as an Islamist militant. Next are Britain's most recently sentenced terrorist, as at the time of this recording.
Hey, police, get on the fucking floor! Get on the floor! No!
38-year-old Walid Sadawi, the man whose arrest you've just seen, got sent down for his act of preparing terrorist attacks in February 2026, his arrest having come in 2024. He worked with another man by the name of Amar Hussain, aged 52, to bring in a load of assault rifles in order to attack the Jewish community in Greater Manchester. Sadawi was from Abram in Wigan in Manchester. They were going to shoot people dead on a march against anti-Semitism in early 2024, and then they were planning to head to the north of Manchester to carry out their killing spree. When Walid was arrested, he was at a car park in Bolton meeting a man who was going to deliver the assault rifles that he'd ordered. The man was an enthusiastic jihadist by the name of Farouk, except that Farouk was in fact an undercover police officer, and this is the moment when Walid found that out.
Do you understand what's just been said to you?
Yeah, he said to me he's an undercover.
Yeah.
We have information that would suggest that yourself and your brother Bilal and Amar are involved in terrorist attack planning.
Whether he's undercover or not, I was not expecting any guns to come over. I was not involved in any planning of harming people, and what I said to you is true.
Having to play it cool, act calm, act like he's unbothered, play the innocent. He must have been pooping himself at that point, and he must have been seriously gutted. On the other hand, his co-conspirator, Amar Hussein, didn't even pretend not to be an enthusiastic supporter of ISIS and Sharia law.
Are you a supporter of ISIS?
Do you want to answer? Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
No, I don't tell you anything. They are Muslim, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, they are Muslim.
What is it about them that you support?
They are Muslim, they make Sharia. Yeah, they make Sharia.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a difference between ISIS and some other people who say they're Muslims?
Yeah, they're all Muslims, they are hypocrite, but the ISIS, they are real Muslim.
Okay.
They make Sharia.
Convicted and sentenced alongside Amar Hussein and Walid Sadawi in February 2026 was none other than Walid's brother, Bilal Sadawi. He actually wasn't planning to take part in the attacks, but he knew what his older brother Walid was up to, and he sympathised with the views of the so-called Islamic State group. On the 13th of February 2026 then, Bilal got 6 years, while Hussein got 26 years, and Walid got 37 years. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.